We watched the Iron Dome intercept some of them as they flew north.
Let's go in, let's go in. Come on, Mohammed.
Hamas claims to be the defender of the Palestinian cause, striking their occupier. Israel will strike back harder still, and the diplomacy to break this cycle isn't there.
In an instant, a 6-story building is reduced to rubble. All throughout the day and into the night, explosions reverberated through Gaza City as Israel intensified its onslaught against Hamas. Just north of Gaza, the city of Ashkelon has been hit repeatedly by Hamas rockets.
With the weight of the Israeli Air Force on top of them, there is nowhere safe to run. Locals filmed the moment a 13-story building collapsed. It's not clear how many people were in it at the time. It is a residential block. The Israelis had earlier said that they were targeting militants in their homes.
If you listen to some people who keep saying that the response from Israel is not proportionate, they make it sound like, there are a couple of blokes in their sheds having a few beers in Palestine, just, building some rocks and missiles in their backyard.
So I've been in command posts, I've discussed with IDF commanders, I've observed on the ground the extreme care that the IDF take to target terrorist leaders, to target weapons, to target ammunition, and to target command posts, but not, if they can possibly avoid it, to hit civilians. Israel's very careful. They make phone calls to people in apartment blocks that also contain Hamas facilities, warning them to get out and telling them where to go to be safe before they bombard it. And if they don't leave, then they've developed a low-powered munition that can be dropped onto the building to give a very loud warning, but doesn't destroy it. And only then, when they're confident that the majority of civilians have gone, will they then carry out a strike. And we've seen, for example, several high-rise buildings totally destroyed by Israeli air power. And I've said before, and I'll say again, that no other army in history has taken so much care and been so effective in preventing civilian casualties on the battlefield.
Overnight, a bomb from an Israeli air raid struck a residential building in Gaza, killing at least 10 people, including children. It's the deadliest single strike so far.
I think that what we are doing are specific strikes against military targets inside Gaza that are part of the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad's military infrastructure.
The rescue of a 6-year-old girl has brought rare joy in Gaza, where 42 people died in the most devastating Israeli airstrike since the conflict with the Palestinians began.
The Israelis released vision of one airstrike they say struck the home of Gaza's top Hamas leader, Yahya Sinwar, successfully eliminating what it calls terror infrastructure, a description it's also given to the media tower it toppled, claiming it was shared with Hamas militants.
We've asked Israel for the evidence.
Well, military power. Israel is using F-16s, which is, a high-tech weapon, and the rockets that the Palestinians are using are low-tech weapons. They are not accurate.
Gaza continues to fight, launching another barrage of rockets, one striking the southern city of Ashkelon, damaging a synagogue and setting cars ablaze. This is what has caused the heartache, a pre-dawn Israeli bombardment. At least 3 buildings were flattened, prompting desperate rescues.
In in the skies the trails of Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. It shot down most of the Hamas rockets.
And it's believed that a lot of Hamas fighters are buried there, so very, very intense bombing. And as far as what I foresee, I think, there is a possibility for a ceasefire. I think Israel is starting to achieve some of its military goals. Maybe Hamas is taking a bad beating, but both sides still want to achieve certain things. I think a key event will be Sunday when the UN Security Council is due to convene. Maybe they'll come up with a resolution for a ceasefire.
And just hours after this interview, Israeli warplanes unleashed on Gaza City in a widespread 10-minute-long attack.
What is happening in Gaza? Who's to blame, and what lies ahead?
The reality of the situation in Israel and in Gaza is that a few days ago, the Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the terrorist forces that control Gaza, and they've so far, in the last 3 or 4 days, they've fired over 2,000 rockets at the Israeli civilians. Most of them, I'm happy to say, have been taken down by the Israelis' Iron Dome missile defense system. Some have got through, and unfortunately, some Israelis have been killed. Meanwhile, of course, the IDF have been striking back very, very hard, and with precise strikes to take down the Hamas military infrastructure, doing their best, of course, to avoid killing innocent civilians. There have been many civilians killed in Gaza, but that's inevitable when you're dealing with a terrorist organization that hides behind human shields and makes that the central focus of its military strategy to try and get Israel to kill their own civilians. But Israel has certainly done devastating damage to Hamas's military infrastructure without a shadow of a doubt, including a really brilliant operation that occurred on Thursday evening in Gaza and destroyed kilometres of their tunnels.
That was quite a strategic move where they tricked Hamas into reacting a certain way and they used the media to achieve that. Take us through that.
It was an incredible operation. In my long and not so august military career, I don't think I've ever known of such an extraordinary surprise attack triggered by deception, a very, very deliberate deception operation.
What is happening in Gaza? Who's to blame, and what lies ahead?